The UES Hyperion emerged from its quantum jump on the edges of the Proxima Centauri system, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the bridge's main viewport, her dark eyes scanning the seemingly peaceful expanse before her. After 15 years of deep space patrol, she thought she'd seen everything the cosmos could throw at humanity. She was wrong. "Commander, we're picking up an unusual signal," Lieutenant Wei Zhang announced from his communications station. "It's coming from New Haven Colony. But, something's off about the transmission." Elena turned, her expression hardening. New Haven was humanity's most distant settlement, home to over 10,000 colonists. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static before a distorted voice cut through. "They're everywhere, consuming everything. Gravity itself bends to their will. Please, anyone, they're not just killing us, they're harvesting." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving an eerie silence on the bridge. First Officer Thomas O'Brien stepped forward, his weathered face creased with concern. "Could be pirates." Elena shook her head. "Pirates don't bend gravity. All stations, battle readiness. Wei, notify Fleet Command. Something's very wrong out there." The Hyperion approached New Haven with all sensors at maximum range. The colony should have been a bustling hub of activity, with orbital platforms processing mineral shipments and transport ships coming and going. Instead, they found silence. "Multiple structures detected on the surface," reported Lieutenant Rashida Khan from Tactical. "But no power signatures. No movement. No," she paused, rechecking her readings. "No life signs." Elena was about to respond when Officer O'Brien called out. "Commander. Massive energy spike at bearing 220. The void itself seemed to tear open as massive shapes emerged from what appeared to be folds in spacetime. They were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, massive vessels that seemed to be made of living metal, their surfaces rippling like liquid mercury. 7 unknown vessels, Rashida reported, her voice steady despite the tension. They're not using any known form of propulsion. They're manipulating space itself to move." Before Elena could issue orders, a force unlike anything she'd experienced gripped the Hyperion. It wasn't like normal gravitational pull, this felt wrong, as if reality itself was being twisted around them. "Hull integrity failing." Engineering Chief Kamal Patel's voice crackled over the comm, "They're creating localized gravity wells. The structural stress is beyond anything we designed for." Elena watched in horror as sections of her ship began to crumple inward. "Emergency protocols. All hands to escape pods. Wei, get that distress signal to Fleet Command. They need to know what they're up against." The bridge crew fought against increasing gravitational forces to reach their stations. Wei managed to transmit their sensor data just before his console imploded. O'Brien helped pull crew members toward the escape pods as the ship's structure groaned around them. As Elena directed the evacuation, she saw through the viewport what happened to New Haven. The alien vessels were systematically breaking down the colony's structures, pulling them apart at a molecular level. It wasn't simple destruction, it was methodical harvesting. "Commander, you need to go," O'Brien shouted, helping the last bridge crew member into a pod. Elena took one final look at her ship's readings, committing everything to memory. Humanity needed to know what they were facing. These beings, whatever they were, weren't just conquerors or pirates. They were harvesters of civilizations. The escape pod launched just as the Hyperion's main reactor gave way. Elena watched through the small viewport as her ship, her home for the past decade, was torn apart. But it wasn't the loss of her ship that chilled her to her core, it was the methodical precision with which these aliens worked. This wasn't random violence. This was calculated, purposeful, and absolutely terrifying. As the pod accelerated away from the devastation, Elena knew humanity was facing something beyond their worst nightmares. These weren't enemies that could be reasoned with or deterred. They were a force of nature, bending the fundamental forces of the universe to their will. "We'll be ready next time," she whispered, clutching the data core she'd managed to save. "Humanity won't go quietly into the dark." The pod's emergency beacon pulsed steadily as it carried its warning toward Earth. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity would need to change with it if they hoped to survive what was coming. In the distance, the alien vessels continued their harvest, their liquid metal hulls pulsing with otherworldly energy. They showed no interest in pursuing the escape pods. Perhaps they didn't consider the survivors worth the effort, or perhaps they knew it didn't matter. They had time. They had patience. And they had power beyond humanity's comprehension. But they didn't know one thing: humans had faced extinction before. And every single time, humanity had fought back and survived. The real question was, what would it cost this time? 3 weeks after the New Haven incident, Earth's Quantum Defense Laboratory hummed with desperate activity. Dr. Marcus Wong stood before a holographic display showing the destruction of the UES Hyperion, watching for the 100th time as the ship crumpled under impossible gravitational forces. "Play it again," he ordered, his eyes never leaving the display. Behind him, Admiral James Harrison shifted impatiently. "We've lost contact with 3 more colonies, Marcus. We don't have time for there." Marcus froze the playback, pointing to a subtle distortion in space around the alien vessels. "They're not just manipulating gravity. They're creating micro-wormholes, thousands of them, to redirect gravitational forces. That's why our shields were useless." Harrison stepped closer, his military uniform crisp despite the late hour. "Can we counter it?" Marcus ran his fingers through his disheveled hair, a habit from his university days. "Maybe. But we need to think beyond conventional physics. These void walkers, as we're calling them, they're not just advanced, they're using fundamental forces of the universe in ways we never imagined possible." The lab's main door slid open as Commander Elena Rodriguez entered, still walking with a slight limp from her escape pod's rough landing. "Then we need to imagine better," she said, joining them at the display. "My crew didn't die just to give us pretty pictures to study." Marcus nodded, pulling up another display showing his latest calculations. "What if we could create a quantum field that exists in multiple states simultaneously? Like a Schrödinger's shield, both there and not there at the same time." "In English, Doctor," Harrison demanded. "They're using micro-wormholes to channel gravitational forces. But wormholes are inherently unstable. If we could generate a field that exists in quantum superposition, their wormholes wouldn't be able to get a fix on our ships. They'd collapse before they could affect us." Elena studied the equations. "How do we generate something like that?" "We already have the technology, quantum computers. We just need to modify them to project their quantum states into physical space." Marcus brought up the schematics for a new device. "I'm calling it the Quantum Uncertainty Generator, or QUG." Harrison's eyes narrowed. "How quickly can we adapt this to our ships?" "The prototypes are ready. We just need—" The lab's emergency alert suddenly blared to life. A junior officer burst through the door. "Admiral! The Void Walkers have entered the Sol system. They've already taken the Mars colonies." Harrison straightened, his voice tight with controlled urgency. "How many ships?" "Over 50, sir. They're moving toward Earth." Elena stepped forward. "The QUG, can it be weaponized?" Marcus blinked. "Weaponized? I designed it as a defense system. But the principle's the same, isn't it?" Elena pressed. "If their wormholes collapse when trying to affect our ships, what happens if we deliberately generate unstable quantum fields inside their vessels?" Marcus's eyes widened as he ran the calculations. "Theoretically, it would tear them apart from the inside. But we'd need to get close, really close." Harrison was already moving toward the door. "Commander Rodriguez, you know these things better than anyone. I'm giving you command of the Earth Defense Fleet's Special Warfare Division. Take Dr. Wong, get those QUGs installed on our fastest ships, and train crews to use them." Elena saluted. "What about the main fleet, sir?" "I'll have them ready to engage the Void Walkers near Jupiter's orbit. We need to buy you time to prepare." Harrison paused at the door. Humanity's never faced extinction before without fighting back. We're not about to start now. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Marcus supervised the installation of QUG systems on a dozen stealth corvettes while Elena drilled their crews relentlessly. The ships were christened the Ghost Fleet, humanity's best hope for survival. In her quarters aboard the fleet's flagship, the UES Spectre, Elena reviewed the tactical data one last time. The Void Walkers had already stripped Mars's colonies bare, but they were moving slowly, methodically, just as they had at New Haven. "They still think we're helpless," she muttered, studying their formation patterns. "That's their weakness, arrogance." Marcus entered, carrying fresh simulation results. "The latest tests are promising. The QUG fields are stable, and they should protect our ships from their gravity weapons." "But Elena..." He hesitated. "The offensive application? It's untested. We don't know what kind of backlash it might create." Elena turned to face him. "Sometimes the best defense is a devastating offense. We need to show these harvesters that humanity isn't just another resource to be collected." A priority alert flashed across her screen. The Void Walkers had detected Earth's main fleet near Jupiter and were moving to engage. The time for preparation was over. All Ghost Fleet crews, battle stations, Elena commanded over the fleet channel. "Remember your training. Remember New Haven. And remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species these things have harvested, and every civilization they plan to harvest next." As the Ghost Fleet moved into position, hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon, Elena felt a strange calm settle over her. The Void Walkers had shown humanity a universe more terrifying than they'd imagined. But humanity was about to show the Void Walkers something equally terrifying, the indomitable will to survive. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and with it, perhaps the beginning of humanity's greatest chapter, or its final one. Captain Zara Patel stood in the cramped bridge of the UES Phantom, one of the Ghost Fleet's stealth corvettes, watching the massive battle unfold near Jupiter. Earth's main fleet engaged the Void Walkers in a desperate dance of destruction, drawing their attention away from the 12 cloaked ships of the Ghost Fleet. "Main fleet's taken heavy losses," Lieutenant Devon Jackson reported from Tactical, "but they're keeping the Void Walkers focused on their position. Admiral Harrison is a damn good actor, making them think we're throwing everything we have at them." Zara nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Void Walkers' liquid metal ships moved with their characteristic fluid grace, their gravity weapons tearing apart conventional Earth vessels that lacked QUG protection. But they hadn't yet noticed the real threat hiding in Jupiter's radiation belt. "Ghost Fleet, this is Commander Rodriguez," Elena's voice came through the secure channel. "Primary target is confirmed. The vessel commanding their harvesting operations is positioned at coordinates 227 Mark 044. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega on my mark." Zara took a deep breath, remembering the briefing. Their QUG systems would protect them from the Void Walkers' gravity weapons, but they had to get close, dangerous close, for their own quantum attacks to work. "All hands, battle stations," she ordered. "Engineering, QUG status." Chief Engineer Remy Baptiste's voice crackled through the comm. "QUG at full power, Captain. But Dr. Wong's warnings about system stability still worry me. We've never pushed these generators to offensive capacity." "Today's full of firsts," Zara replied. "We'll make history or become it." Elena's voice cut through again. "Ghost Fleet. Mark." The 12 ships of humanity's elite strike force decloaked simultaneously, their QUG fields creating a strange prismatic effect around their hulls as they accelerated toward the Void Walker command ship. The massive alien vessel was easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleship, its mercury-like surface rippling with otherworldly energy. "They've spotted us," Devon reported. "Multiple gravity distortions forming. QUG holding steady." Zara allowed herself a small smile as the Void Walker's primary weapon proved ineffective against their quantum-shielded ships. The alien vessels seemed to pause, as if confused by their inability to crush these new human vessels. "They're adapting," Elena warned over the fleet channel. "Pattern Delta 7. Don't let them box us in." The Ghost Fleet split into 4 triads, each group approaching the command ship from different vectors. The Void Walkers responded with conventional energy weapons, searing beams of plasma that the human ships dodged with practiced precision. "Range to target, 15,000 kilometers, Devon called out. QUG offensive capacity charging, 10%, 20. A brilliant flash lit up space as one of the Ghost Fleet vessels, the UES Wraith, took a direct hit from a plasma beam. Its QUG field flickered but held, though the ship's outer hull glowed cherry red from the impact. "Offensive QUG at 60%, Devon reported. We need to get closer." Zara watched as the massive command ship launched smaller vessels, sleek, predatory craft that moved with impossible agility. "They're learning," she muttered. "All ships, concentrate fire on those interceptors. Don't let them disrupt our approach." The space around Jupiter erupted in chaos as the Ghost Fleet engaged in close-quarters combat with the Void Walker interceptors. Traditional weapons proved nearly useless against the alien ship's liquid metal hulls, but the humans had trained for this. Each corvette carried a specially designed missile that could penetrate the fluid surface and detonate inside. "Offensive QUG at 90%. Devon shouted over the sound of the ship's straining engines. "We're almost within optimal range." Suddenly, Elena's voice cut through, "All ships, break off." "There." The warning came too late. The Void Walker command ship's surface rippled violently, and dozens of wormholes larger than any they'd seen before opened around it. But instead of channeling gravitational forces, these portals disgorged hundreds of smaller craft. "It's a carrier," Zara realized. "They were waiting for us to commit to the attack." The Ghost Fleet found itself surrounded, their carefully planned approach disrupted by swarms of Void Walker vessels. But Zara saw something else, an opportunity. Commander Rodriguez, requesting permission to execute Attack Plan Sigma. There was a moment of silence on the comm before Elena responded, "Granted, Captain. All ships, follow the Phantom's lead." Instead of breaking away from the swarm, Zara ordered her ship to dive straight into it. "Engineering, divert all power to the offensive QUG. Devon, target the command ship's launch bays." The Phantom plunged through the cloud of alien vessels, its quantum field causing their gravity weapons to collapse harmlessly. The other Ghost Fleet ships followed, forming a spear formation with the Phantom at its tip. "Offensive QUG at maximum power," Devon announced. "Ready to initiate quantum cascade." Zara watched as they approached one of the massive launch bays. "All ships, synchronize QUG pulses on my mark, 3, 2, 1. Fire." 12 quantum uncertainty fields, pushed far beyond their intended defensive capacity, lashed out at the command ship's vulnerable launch bay. The result exceeded their wildest expectations. The unstable quantum effects cascaded through the liquid metal structure, causing chain reactions of collapsing micro-wormholes throughout the vessel. The massive command ship began to tear itself apart from the inside, its liquid metal surface boiling as quantum instability spread through its structure. The smaller craft connected to it through their network of wormholes suffered the same fate, imploding as their gravity manipulation systems catastrophically failed. "All ships, clear the blast radius," Elena ordered. "Return to the main fleet." As the Ghost Fleet retreated, Zara watched the Void Walker command ship dissolve into a spectacular quantum fireworks display. They'd proven it, humanity's greatest weakness, their desperate need to innovate in the face of extinction, had become their greatest strength. But as the celebration began over the tactical channel, Zara noticed something troubling in the sensor data. The remaining Void Walker ships weren't retreating in defeat, they were regrouping with a purpose. And their movements suggested they were receiving new orders from somewhere else entirely. This wasn't the end. It was barely the beginning. Lieutenant Nikolai Volkov worked in silence aboard the research vessel UES Discovery, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he analyzed data recovered from the destroyed Void Walker command ship. As the fleet's leading xenoarchaeologist, he'd been tasked with making sense of the fragments of alien data they'd managed to salvage. "You need to see this," he called to Dr. Marcus Wong, who was examining a piece of the liquid metal hull they'd recovered. "I found something in their transmission logs. Something that changes everything." Marcus moved to Nikolai's station, his eyes widening as he saw the decoded alien signals. "Are those distress calls?" "Not from them," Nikolai replied, enhancing the display. "From others. Hundreds of others. Some of these messages are thousands of years old." He played one of the translated messages, and a haunting alien voice filled the lab. "They come from the spaces between spaces, harvesting worlds to feed their endless hunger. We thought we could fight them, but they consume everything, matter, energy, even gravity itself. If you receive this, run. Run before." The message cut off abruptly. Marcus leaned closer, studying the timestamp. "This is from over 3,000 years ago. And it's not the oldest," Nikolai said grimly. "The Void Walkers have been collecting these messages, studying them. But look at this pattern." He pulled up a star chart showing the path of Void Walker harvesting operations across the galaxy. "They're not random attacks. They're following something." A new voice joined the conversation. "Following what?" Commander Elena Rodriguez asked, entering the lab with Captain Zara Patel. Nikolai took a deep breath. "A signal. Something incredibly ancient, pushing them forward, driving them to harvest more and more advanced civilizations. And based on these calculations." He highlighted a section of space on the map. "Whatever they're following, it's coming from there." The location he indicated was a dark region of space, seemingly empty of stars. Elena frowned. "There's nothing there." "Nothing we can see," Marcus corrected, understanding dawning on his face. "But if they can manipulate gravity and create wormholes, then they might be able to detect things we can't," Zara finished. "Like a hidden space pocket?" Nikolai nodded excitedly. "Exactly. And look at this." He brought up analysis of the Void Walker's quantum signatures. "Their technology isn't entirely their own. It's evolved, adapted, built upon technology they've harvested from other civilizations. They're not just destroying worlds, they're assimilating their technological achievements." Elena's expression hardened. "So when they harvest a civilization, they take everything," Marcus confirmed. "Knowledge, technology, resources. They're like technological parasites, evolving with each civilization they consume." Nikolai pulled up more translated data. "But here's what's truly fascinating. They're not doing this by choice. These internal communications suggest they're being compelled, driven by something they call the signal. It's like a cosmic imperative they can't ignore." "Are you saying they're slaves?" Zara asked incredulously. "More like puppets," Nikolai replied. "And whatever's pulling their strings is in that dark region of space. But there's more." He hesitated, looking at his colleagues. "They're afraid." "The Void Walkers?" Elena scoffed. "They don't seem afraid when they're tearing our colonies apart." "Not of us," Nikolai clarified. "Of whatever's controlling them." These records, they're filled with what I can only describe as terror. They harvest because they must, because the alternative is worse than death. Marcus studied the data intently. The QUG technology we developed, it's not just disrupting their gravity weapons. It's disrupting their connection to whatever's controlling them. That's why they reacted so strongly to our counterattack. Then we need to push this advantage, Elena declared. If we can break their connection to this signal. A sudden alert blared through the ship's speakers. Admiral Harrison's voice came through, all personnel, battle stations. Long-range sensors have detected multiple Void Walker fleets converging on our position. This isn't a raiding party, it's an invasion force. Elena moved to the lab's main display, bringing up the tactical feed. Hundreds of Void Walker ships were emerging from wormholes throughout the solar system. But something was different about their formation. They're not moving with their usual precision, Zara observed. Look at their flight patterns, they're almost desperate. Nikolai quickly analyzed the new sensor data. The signal is getting stronger. Whatever's controlling them is pushing them to harvest Earth immediately, probably because we've shown we can resist them. Then we don't just need to fight them, Elena realized. We need to free them. How quickly can we modify the QUG technology to target their control signals? Marcus ran calculations on his display. With this new data, maybe hours. But we'd need to get close to that dark region of space, where the signal is strongest. And we'd need enough QUG-equipped ships to create a large enough disruption field, Zara added. Elena's eyes narrowed with determination. Then we better start working. Because we're not just fighting for humanity anymore, we're fighting to free an entire species from cosmic slavery. As the team began their preparations, Nikolai studied the ancient distress calls again. Countless civilizations had faced the Void Walkers and fallen. But none of them had discovered the truth, that their destroyers were themselves victims of an even greater horror lurking in the dark between stars. Humanity would not repeat their mistake. They would not just survive, they would end this cycle of harvest and horror once and for all. Fleet Admiral Diana Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and largest battleship, watching as the combined fleets of humanity assembled around her. Every ship had been retrofitted with enhanced QUG systems, modified using Nikolai's discoveries to not just defend against the Void Walkers, but to potentially free them. Status report, she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's future. 347 ships ready for combat, Admiral, her XO reported. The Ghost Fleet is in position, led by Commander Rodriguez. Dr. Wong reports the modified QUG systems are operating at optimal efficiency. Diana nodded, studying the tactical display showing the massive Void Walker armada gathering at the edge of the solar system. Behind them lay the dark region of space where the signal originated. Their target. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Santos, she broadcast across the fleet channel. What we've discovered about the Void Walkers changes everything. They're not our true enemy, they're slaves to something ancient and malevolent. Today, we fight not just for Earth, not just for humanity, but for every species that has fallen to this cosmic horror. Today, we break the chain of harvest. The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, QUG fields creating a shimmering barrier of quantum uncertainty around each vessel. As they approached, the Void Walker ships began to move erratically, their liquid metal hulls rippling with increased intensity. The signal is getting stronger, Nikolai reported from his station aboard the Discovery. It's trying to force them to attack us. But look, their formations are breaking down. They're fighting it. Diana watched as the Void Walker fleet split into chaotic groups, some moving to attack while others seemed to resist. Now. All ships, activate enhanced QUG fields at maximum power. Hundreds of quantum uncertainty fields pulsed in unison, their effect magnified by modifications based on the Void Walker's own technology. The space between the fleets lit up with quantum distortions as the human ships pushed toward the dark region. Multiple wormholes detecting, tactical announced. Something massive is emerging. From the darkness came a sight that defied comprehension, a vast construct of impossible geometry, its surface a writhing mass of what looked like living mathematics. The signal's source revealed at last. By all that's holy, Diana whispered, then steeled herself. All ships, hold formation. Focus QUG fields on that construct. The entity responded with a wave of pure gravitational force that would have crushed the fleet instantly if not for their quantum shields. Even with protection, several ships were knocked out of formation. It's trying to re-establish control over the Void Walkers. Marcus shouted over the comm, Admiral, we need to get closer. The QUG fields aren't strong enough at this range. Diana made her decision. Ghost Fleet, clear us a path. Main Fleet, form up on the Defiant. We're going to punch straight through to that thing. Elena's voice came through, Ghost Fleet acknowledges. All ships, attack pattern Epsilon. The 12 ships of the Ghost Fleet shot forward, their enhanced maneuverability allowing them to weave through the chaos of battle. Their precision strikes with quantum-tipped weapons created gaps in the Void Walker formation, gaps the main fleet immediately exploited. As they closed distance, the entity's true nature became clear. It wasn't just a construct, it was a quantum computer of unimaginable complexity, built by some long-dead civilization to achieve immortality. But it had gone mad, turning its creators into the first Void Walkers and beginning an endless cycle of harvest. QUG fields at maximum. Engineering reported. Hull integrity holding at 60%. Diana watched as more Void Walker ships broke free from the entity's control, their liquid metal forms solidifying into crystalline structures of breathtaking beauty. The true form of their species, revealed at last. This ends now, Diana declared. All ships, synchronize QUG pulses with the freed Void Walker vessels. Fire on my mark. The combined power of humanity's quantum fields merged with the newly freed aliens' own technology, creating a cascade of reality-warping energy that struck the ancient entity like a spear of pure quantum uncertainty. Its mathematical surface began to unravel, equations collapsing into chaos. It's working. Nikolai shouted. The signal is breaking down. The Void Walkers, they're all breaking free. The entity made one final attempt to reassert control, launching a wave of gravitational force that threatened to tear reality itself apart. But the combined fleet held firm, their quantum fields creating a bubble of protected spacetime. All ships, full power to QUG fields. Diana ordered. Push back. Show this thing that humanity stands with the freed. In a final, spectacular burst of quantum energy, the ancient construct collapsed in on itself, its mad dreams of eternal harvest finally ended. The dark region of space lit up with the birth of a new star, the entity's massive power source transforming into something life-giving instead of life-taking. As the light faded, Diana looked out at the transformed Void Walker ships, their crystalline forms now peaceful, free for the first time in millennia. A transmission came through, not in words but in pure mathematical concepts that their computers translated. We remember who we were now. We remember freedom. Humanity, you did not just save yourselves. You saved us all. Diana smiled, feeling the weight of command lift slightly from her shoulders. This is Fleet Admiral Santos to all ships. Stand down to condition yellow. And open a channel to our new allies. I believe humanity in the Crystal Consortium, as they now call themselves, have much to discuss about the future. The battle was over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had faced cosmic horror and transformed it into hope. Now, with new allies and new understanding of the universe's deepest mysteries, they were ready to take their place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as liberators and friends to all who sought freedom among the endless night.